In this series of videos, we'll continue talking about social media site profiles. This time we'll focus on Instagram, which, as you can see from this chart, has a pretty healthy sized young audience. Not as young maybe as Snapchat, but definitely skews in the younger demographic, with about 49% being under the age of 34. So let's look at some information on the history and overview of Instagram. So many of you probably know this, but Instagram is an image sharing network where you can create and post stylized images, add quirky filters, and post different types of photos. So a lot of businesses use Instagram in conjunction with other social media, and have they post their photos on Instagram and then link their accounts to Twitter and Facebook, so those photos can automatically be posted there as well. A lot of young adults today use it as their go-to social network for posting selfies, along with other networks like Snapchat. So Instagram was created by Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, and it launched in October 2010. It was a free mobile app exclusively for Apple phones, for the iOS devices. And Facebook acquired them in April of 2012 for $1 billion in cash and stock. And this was a huge investment for Facebook. They typically hadn't spent that much on their acquisitions in the past, so this was a pretty big deal. Instagram is distributed through app stores. So it's downloaded through the Apple App Store if you have an iOS device, through Google Play for Android devices, and from the Windows Phone Store for Windows Phone devices. The support for the app is available for the iPhone, iPad, iTouch, Windows 10, and Android handsets. In 2015, Instagram was the number one app, named one of the number one app by Mashable for the 100 best iPhone apps of all time, and also one of the most influential networks in the world. In terms of usage, it has skyrocketed. The monthly users have doubled since March of 2016. So worldwide, there are 800 million plus monthly active users, and 500 million plus daily active users. There have been over 40 billion photos uploaded to Instagram as of about October of 2015, so it's probably many, many more than that now. 91% of all the posts are photos, and 282 million of those uploads were selfies. Now with the launch of Instagram Stories, 250 million plus use Instagram Stories every day. 80% of the Instagram users follow a business on Instagram, making it a great opportunity for advertisers. And also 80% of Instagram users actually live outside of the U.S. It's hard to imagine. We kind of get focused on thinking about, it being an American thing, but really we're pretty small in the whole scheme of things in terms of Instagram users. In terms of likes, Beyonce holds the record for the most likes on Instagram for her pregnancy photo with 11 million. Instagram has grown a lot in the past few years. It's multiplied. It's grown 4 times as big as it was over just the past 2 years. There have been over 1 billion Google Play downloads, and the user base is projected to grow by 15.1%. The average social network growth is only 3.1%, so that's amazing growth. You can see here in the upper right the amount of money, the financial growth of Instagram, from $600 million in 2015 to $2.81 billion just 2 years later. In terms of the monthly active users, they've doubled, as I mentioned before, since March of 2016. In the first 2 months of after the launch of Instagram, they had 1 million users, which is pretty amazing to think about. Within the first year, they had 10 million users. You can see this down here in 2011. And then they had over 100 million active users by April of 2012, so in this area here. And the growth has just skyrocketed since then. So as of April 2017, they have 700 million users. Instagram is a top social media site for a number of reasons. Number one, the visuals add a certain dimension to content that words alone sometimes just can't quite grasp. The picture tells the story. It's a platform that has extremely attractive demographics to go after the young audience. And there are three reasons that content tends to succeed on the platform. Number one, the Instagram community is very passionate. They have about 700 or 800 million users globally. And those on the platform are very engaged. They're very active in posting and responding to things. Then there's the creative context. Users go to Instagram to look at beautiful or interesting images. So putting your business's content there means that you're presenting to a creative, image-driven audience as well. I actually have a friend who owns her own social media consulting firm, and she actually specializes in the tile industry of all things. And she uses Instagram almost exclusively as her social media platform. So she constantly is posting pictures of different tiles that you might want to remodel your home with, and has done so very successfully for her clients. It's also a very visual language. With the focus on images, Instagram has an easy to digest and aesthetically pleasing arena for your brand's visual content. I'll be talking in future videos about some different success stories from some companies and how they've used it to showcase their products. So now let's take a look at Instagram demographics. As I mentioned earlier, it skews towards a much younger audience. 90% of Instagram users are under the age of 35. Of those, 51% are male and 49% are female. And 20% of all internet users have Instagram. 46% of U.S. millennials use it. And 35% of the users who do use it accessed Instagram multiple times per day. There have been 95 million photos and videos uploaded per day on Instagram. 91.7% of those are actually photos. There are about 4.2 billion likes per day. So that's as if every daily user liked something 14 times. When you post something on Instagram, your response happens rather quickly. 50% of the comments will happen within 19 hours, and only 10% will come after 19 days. So within a span of less than 3 weeks, you'll have pretty much all the feedback you're going to get. But within the span of less than a day, you'll have a good chunk of that feedback. So this graph shows that there are 600 million unique monthly users. So as I've mentioned before in talking about other social media sites, different research shows different statistics sometimes, but also with the growth of the internet and these different apps and social media sites, those numbers can change quickly. So that's a little bit low from what we talked about before. And this says that it's predominantly female, and that 38% of online women use Instagram and 26% of online men. But as we showed earlier, of the actual Instagram users, that actually skews slightly male. This corroborates that 90% of the Instagram users are under 35. And then this statistic is key for advertisers wanting to use Instagram. 53% of Instagram users actually follow brands on Instagram. So looking at the age demographics again, as we've said, that it definitely, the Instagram demographics have definitely veered towards younger generations since its inception. However, some new statistics from the Pew Social Media Report show that older generations are starting to embrace the app a little bit more. So 59% of 18 to 29-year-olds use Instagram, and 33% of 30 to 49-year-olds use it. And that's of those who are on the internet already. So 59% of internet users in that 18 to 29-year-old range use Instagram. So that accounts for 92% of internet users who are in that 18 to 49-year-old range are using Instagram. The 50 to 64-year-old age range is growing, and then just a few people in the 65-plus age range, as you might expect. And looking at gender, 38% of all female U.S. internet users use it, and 26% of all male U.S. internet users use Instagram. However, when you look at just the Instagram user population, as we mentioned earlier, 49% are female and 51% are male, so it skews just a tad male. In the previous report from Pew, Instagram was one of the few social networks without its main demographic having some college experience. However, data collected from 2016 and beyond shows that the trends have dramatically changed. So this shows that 37% of adults with some college experience use Instagram, 33% of adults who graduated from college use Instagram, and 27% of adults with a high school diploma or less use Instagram. In terms of the income, Instagram shows that 38% of adults who make less than $30,000 use Instagram. 32% of adults who make $30,000 to $50,000 use Instagram, and 32% who make $50,000 to $75,000 use Instagram. So if you look at this, kind of combine these totals, then 69% of Instagram users have incomes over $50,000 a year. So that's quite a bit different than some earlier stats had shown. We've also seen some changes in the location demographics. While you might think Instagram users in the city might have more content to capture, rural and suburban users are on the rise. But like most location demographics around young age groups, the city spotlight kind of still gleams, with that urban usage being a lot higher. So 39% of adults living in urban areas use it, 31% of adults living in rural areas use Instagram, and 28% of adults in suburban areas use Instagram. So Instagram has a huge core audience of 18 to 29-year-olds, and their demographics in terms of financial and education are definitely improving.